Bambos, Demetrio.
Andy Shalef.
We are together
Today,
Friday afternoon
with Anne,
Feustel,
discussing
movies
on
a
wonderful
chaos.
I like Mad Max
I like Scarface.
and Scarface.
Do you remember? I can tell you where I was when I saw those two films. I know exactly where I was when I saw those two films.
On the toilet in a basement?
No, I saw them in the movie theaters. You didn't see them in the theaters themselves?
No.
Scarface, I was too young to get into the movie. So I remember it was Sherman Oaks, and I was waiting outside the theater, and I got some guy to buy tickets for us so that we could go in to see the movie because it was an R-rated movie.
I can imagine, yes.
It was a random memory, but I remember it was such a big deal to get into the theater to see it because of the violence.
I think this was the movie that got Al Pacino the role of the Godfather.
I think The Godfather was before the Scarface.
Really?
I think so, yeah. But that's okay.
We're going to check it.
We can check that. I'd be willing to bet on that, but I can't say for sure.
And Mel Gibson.
Yeah, that was when Mel Gibson was cool. So this is one of these shows. We don't pick shows like this often, you know?
Oh.
Like where we take an honest theme and really want to dig into it. Normally it's more of like how I healed from my suffering.
Well, I'm sure we can figure out how movies can heal you from yourself. Like truth be told, if I'm sick, which is rare, but if I ever get sick, I'll Google movies which will make you laugh your ass off.
Really?
And I'll find them and I'll watch them, and I might even binge watch. Like, it's the only time you ever see me watching movies, like really binge watching.
Is when you're sick.
And I'll laugh my ass off, and it feels like I'll laugh so hard that all my organs are getting shaken.
Wow.
And all the blood is flowing. I'm like a happy bumble.
But do you not? I was given a gift today,
and he's one of a kind.
and Bambos forced me to wear it on air just so he could humiliate me. I told him I didn't want to wear it. People already think that I'm, self-absorbed enough. God forbid I have a hat that says one of a kind on it, which I do now.
And Mimi, thank you for giving this to Andy.
No, thank you for giving it to Bambos. Now Bambos can laugh at me every day.
And mine says,
Karma. What comes around goes around.
Yeah, baby.
What were we discussing now after you interrupted me so impolitely?
That movies can be very healing.
Yeah.
But the reason I don't watch movies and you keep bringing it on is because I just see that every time I see a movie, it takes me away from being present. And it's like my brain gets occupied and it replays the scenes and my body is reliving, and it's really difficult to get into that space of a no mind, let's say, just being fully.
You're like polluting your mind.
It gets into my dreams. It just doesn't feel good, and I'll wake up feeling energetically heavy because whatever I've watched for the 90 minutes, I do love more sci-fi fantasy movies. So whatever I've watched, it kind of enters my system. Like I was the one running and shooting and jumping and dying. So yeah, and I'm really sensitive.
Isn't it interesting?
I would never watch a horror movie though. I can watch a trailer of a horror movie and I won't sleep for a few days.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? Because you see it sometimes play out on the show as well. When there's a really traumatic thing being discussed, that you really like, it really comes into your system.
Yeah, very sensitive, Andy.
Yeah. Oh, I think we can dig into a bit more of that when we bring Anne on.
Yeah.
Interestingly, if I am not well, I want to watch Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter, I could watch 100 times over. I don't need to finish it. I don't need to do it. It's like junk food, which I can put on and I just feel better. It's like sugar and sugar and sugar. And it doesn't need to have anything I don't need to get too absorbed in anything. and I'll see that that's how I will sort of decompress or give myself sort of passive entertainment where I can just calm myself and feel like I'm being taken care of, which is kind of interesting. I also have that with Jurassic Park, but I think that comes from the fact that it came out when I was a kid, and I have childhood memories of how good it felt to see that movie the first time. So I rekindle that feeling when I'm sick.
Like Star Wars and Star Trek for me.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny though that if you take the movies at some point, they all had a different story, but it was always the same scenario. Some white guy or woman with a machine gun, hero's journey, everyone dies at the end except them, happy ending.
Yeah.
And so that's also another reason why I get a little bit to watch movies.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets, one thing I noticed was that when I been like, Ronnie hates watching shows with me because I'll, like, at the beginning say, oh, that's what's going to happen. And she's like, don't ruin it for me. And it's almost like, because it's so predictable that you don't need, anytime they do a foreshadowing earlier on, and they've done it so many times before, you already know that there's a reason why they put everything in a movie pretty much. Like that, yeah, that's and Bolalong from South Africa
says, I only watch a movie that enough of people I respect comment on, and Bulang, I fucking love you. That is so on point.
Yeah. Bolalong.
Except for Andy.
I want to ask you, I gave you a whole rundown on the film Being There. Did you see it? Did you love it? Did you not like it as much as I liked it? Did you dislike it like Bambos did? I want to know.
And with that,
I think with that,
we should bring Anne.
We should bring Anne on.
And
to educate us.
And Bogey.
Hello.
Hello.
Anne
Bogey.
And Bogey the cat. Hey, Bogey.
Hello.
Hey, Bogey.
So, did anything we say, did you agree with, or is there anything that you want to correct us on?
Sure. No, I mean, I completely agree about the comfort, about how much movies can bring you comfort. It's a huge part of my book when I talk about that, and it's something that movies have brought me comfort since I was a little kid. And there's definitely movies for me. The two movies that I watch the most when I sort of need comforting are the movies Inside Out and The Princess Bride.
Wow. Inside Out was an incredible movie. And I saw it with people that thought it was horrible.
I don't know them.
It was a Disney Pixar Entertainment mastered how the brain works. Like it was almost like, for me, when you watch a movie, it's like they have such an understanding of the human condition, and they've done it in such a beautiful way of putting it into animation in ways that, like Up. I mean, I can't watch the film Up without wanting to cry, like sobbing horribly, because it's just such an emotionally powerful film.
Mm-hmm.
But Inside Out, what was the beauty about Inside Out for me was that it almost was like it's going to sound weird to say this, but it was like a fuck you. We're going to show you how much we understand your brain by making a movie only about your brain and then giving you an experience where you get to see that we understand what we've done in all the other movies. Like they really showed how well they understood the human condition, but in such a beautiful way that you feel like that should be seen at every university. If they say, how does the brain work? It's like, okay, this is the brain science. Yeah.
Burlang says, Inside Out is brilliant. I heard of it from my children.
Yes.
Wise children, Burlang.
Exactly. Oh, thank you for saying that. It's so perfect to me. And my favorite part of it is the 5 emotions inside Riley's head: joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness. And sadness is my favorite character. I really relate to her very much. I have depression. She is sadness. She's chubby. I'm chubby. She's got glasses. I've got glasses. She's very much into empathy, and so am I. I really believe that people who have mental health issues have a higher degree of empathy than people who don't.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So she makes me cry. She makes me laugh. She's perfection.
So when I hear you speak, if I watch a movie where, like, example, Rocky, the classics, I would watch Rocky in times when my life, I felt beaten down, and I would watch some of the fight scenes because it reminded me of where I was and what I could achieve, like the getting up part, the getting up. And there was a time where I had to get up every morning against depression, against my mind not wanting to go on. And I would actually start my day with watching, and then I'd go work out and just start my day. Now, and I would cry, by the way. So I'm wondering what correlated in your own life if you would cry with watching this specific character in Inside Out. Was that a
like what happened in my life that would make me cry?
Yeah. So could you connect it to experience that you've had while watching it?
Sure. Well, for instance, I would be going, I've dealt myself with suicidal thoughts, and a few times I've tried to die by suicide. So I've had some really dark times. One of the times that I'll watch Inside Out as well is if I'm manic. So I have bipolar disorder. So if I can't sleep and my mind is racing, and I feel like I need to calm myself down and try to see if there's any way for me to have at least a few hours of sleep, then I'll watch Inside Out.
Wow. It's almost like self-care.
It is. No, that's completely true. And that's something that is, it's actually pretty amazing through my research how much, oh, there he goes. How much self-care, how much watching comfort movies can be self-care. And just any certain kinds of movies with positive messages, movies that you can relate to, movies that can sort of open you up to different possibilities, movies that help you understand yourself or others more. They can all be self-care.
Yeah.
A movie that makes me cry and is a bit of the feeling like if I have a trouble connecting to my emotions, kind of a random movie, but if I watch the movie Blindside, like that'll always make me cry. You know the movie Blindside at all?
Do you see that I'm looking at you with a blank face?
Yeah, that's yeah, that's one of these films that when I see someone taking what feels like more authentic, because sometimes when films are made, they're done so over dramatized that I have a hard time connecting to them because they're almost, you can see that it's not reality.
Blindside.
Yeah.
What is it about, Andy?
It's about a homeless Black child in the U.S. So based on a true story, and he's adopted by a family in a situation where he's totally not belonging, and it's the journey they make together and how he then transcends and actually becomes a professional football player. But the beauty of it is seeing the incapacity of each of the characters trying to figure out how to support one another when it's so hard to do that. And I think in those dramas, there's some shows, like my wife was watching a show that was literally emotionally killing me. This Is Us.
Oh yeah, I'll cry at that one like almost every week.
Oh, this must be Netflix weekly.
It was like all I did is said, "Baby, you're like killing me like day after day after day." She's commenting because she's now watching. She says, "Hachi, another film." Like those films are sometimes so painful to watch. Just thinking about them makes me want to cry.
I'm so happy I'm not watching these movies.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, the two movies that'll make me cry are Little Women. When someone dies in that, and I won't say who for those of you who haven't seen it. Specifically the 1994 version with Winona Ryder and Claire Danes and Susan Sarandon and all those folks. And then The Hunger Games will actually make me cry.
Wow.
The part where Katniss volunteers for her sister.
Wow. What comes up for you then? Because that would be a very specific emotion. So what's the feeling that comes up when you see that?
I think sort of how important family is and devotion and just sort of how you would do the thing you're scared of most to protect somebody else.
Wow.
But also just like Jennifer Lawrence and how amazing she is and putting you in that moment.
Yeah. I just learned something just now, quickly, I found fascinating. I just realized if I said to you the 5 films that have an impact me emotionally, it would give you such an insight into what's important to me in my life. I didn't think about that till now. Fascinating. Okay, sorry.
Definitely.
But I would have to know the movies, right?
No, I was going to say, if you shared with me, what are the 5, like just now with Anne, when she said that scene in the Hunger Games, I've seen that scene 2 or 3 times. It didn't affect me emotionally. So the fact that it affected Anne is almost like there's a signature that it connected to something that's deep, important in her life, which is why it triggers that emotion. But it obviously everyone has different background, so we all get triggered by different things in film.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
How many, like, this is more informational, how many movies would you say you've watched in your lifetime?
Hundreds? I don't know. Probably. Like if I watched, like when I was a kid, I probably watched at least a movie every day.
Wow. And
or at
now
least
what's the
part of a
average?
movie every day. We would do this thing. We managed to somehow get HBO without paying for it for a while, and then I don't know.
Do you
we
hear that,
paid for it.
HBO?
In the 80s, we had HBO.
Yeah, I
without
think
paying for
everybody
it.
had a friend who could come to the house for $100, and then after you had HBO for 6 months until HBO changed something so you couldn't get it anymore. Yeah.
So, and just, cable, whatnot. I really do think we did this thing where you HBO'd it, where you might turn on HBO, it's in the middle of a movie, and you watch the middle of the movie, and then tomorrow or a week from then, the movie's on again, and then you watch the end of the movie, and then the next time you watch the beginning of the movie. So at least part of a movie just about every day. Yeah. So it's got to be at least 300.
At what point, like I've just seen for myself, like I told you, it's easier for me to say what's going to happen in a movie sometimes within the first 5 minutes, if it feels that predictable. So to what degree do you see that you are bored with it?
I think sometimes it's I don't know, like I tend to give movies a chance. It's not necessarily for me being predictable, it's whether I'm enjoying it. Does it feel like work to watch this movie?
Yeah.
That would be my number one thing.
Yeah. I have a thing when I would watch a movie, like I'll sometimes put my alarm on because I'm just incapable of getting out of it myself. And when the alarm goes on, I'll stop the movie, I'll walk around the house, I'll make some tea. And then it's more a question of, is it really drawing me in, or am I just wasting my time with this? And based on that, I'll decide if I'm going to watch it or not. Because sometimes it might be a shit movie, but you just watch it till the end, and you're like, why did I just spend 90 minutes watching this?
Yeah, sometimes I'll start watching a movie not too long before I want to go to bed, and that way I can decide the next day if I want to keep watching it.
Yeah, I've noticed that I will watch the same movie over and over again because I actually just like kind of having a little bit of the background. So I don't like Ronnie will say, "You've watched that movie 20 times already," and I'll laugh and say, "Exactly. That's why I have it on." Because I'll be doing something that takes a little bit of brain capacity, but I just like to have that sort of like little noise in the background.
Well, part of the thing too with those kinds of movies is when you watch them or you half watch them, you don't have to like worry about what's going to happen. In a lot of movies, when you watch them for the first time, will they or won't they? Is this person going to come out victorious or not? Are they going to live or not? And sometimes we get anxious about that, or it sort of affects us, or something like a Rocky movie. For the first time, you might be flinching while you're watching it.
I still flinch.
You still flinch.
I still flinch.
But it's actually better for your brain once you've watched it a bunch, so you don't have that little level of anxiety watching it.
Yeah. It was funny because my wife Ronnie, who's sitting off to our left right now, she's
actually watching the show live and on her phone.
Yeah, so she's kind of hiding off to the side. I think she's come because she knows if she's here that I'm probably going to speak less about it, but I'm going to speak more. So she has a chance to say, I never want to show up this place again. She, interestingly, she saw the film I Am Legend, and that film really frightened her. So interestingly, she wanted to see this film several more times so that in watching it, she would numb herself so that it wouldn't be as scary each time.
Did it work?
No. So I have a former boyfriend who was so upset about the scene where the dog dies in that movie, or his dog is killed.
Yeah.
And he had gotten it from Netflix. He took the disc and broke it in half.
Wow.
He was so upset. And then he paid, he had to pay Netflix for doing that. But
blame it on Netflix. You made me feel this way.
But, it's, people get very visceral reactions to movies.
Yeah, I have a question to get back to like where we started with this. 4 years ago, I'm assuming that 4 years ago when you decided to write the book, or was that, so 4 years ago, like, what did you actually do? What was it that led you to write the book? Like, take me back to that process.
Sure. So I started, so my sort of realization that ever since I was a kid, movies have always been something that I did for self-care. That came in about 2015. And I had worked for a year on the Colorado Crisis and Support Line, where I worked as a peer support specialist, which is somebody who has mental health and/or substance abuse issues, mentoring, helping out, supporting people with similar issues. Then I got burnt out after a year, and I wanted to do something still with mental health, but that wasn't so taxing on me. So, and I'd always wanted to publish a book. I wrote a book in high school, but I never got it published. So I talked to somebody who I ended up working with as a book coach, and her name is Amy Collette. And I had sort of thought about different kinds of things, but I settled on movies and mental health as what I wanted to write about. So,
and what did you learn? Because you spent several years kind of crafting this. So what was the thing that you say, the takeaways that came out of that research you did?
Sure. Takeaways from the research, just how much movies help us, and we've talked about that, so throughout the show, the different ways that movies can help us with emotional release, with comforting us, with, sort of being there for us, movies that we can watch over and over again, that kind of thing. That movies there was one small study done about kids who had been abused, and watching the movie A Bug's Life, and having therapists sort of work out with them how they felt about the movie, how it related to what they were going through, that kind of thing. The kids who had gone through that experience had less aggression than before they were on the scale. They had less aggression. The movies that are more altruistic, about sort of They're about, like, for instance, The Blind Side and different movies like that, where it's so important to put other people first. Watching those kinds of movies can make us kinder and more aware of sort of others' feelings. Um, there's a guy named the movie doctor out there, Gary Solomon, who he prescribes movies for his patients, and he sees a lot of how much those patients are helped by him, are helped by watching these movies that he prescribes. I could keep going.
The one thing you said that was really beautiful, and I it's another thing that's sort of obvious, but I guess I haven't really thought about it, was that the amount of empathy that a film, I would almost say, forces you to see, because you can detach. Life is so easy to detach from, but when you see say a documentary or a film around a human's life, it's harder not to like see and have compassion for a journey, because it's far more visceral. You see it and you experience it. So in a weird way, I would almost say films or good films give us the possibility to feel the emotions of others more readily.
Exactly.
Don't forget, though, it's not only a good story. There's the lighting, there's the music which comes with the scene. Like it's the whole package. And if one of these, like, normally the music is the thing which brings you in.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's
the score for Inside Out is just out of this world. It's fantastic.
I was going to share, I don't know how it is. I'm curious in your two versions of this. So I have two films that I'd like to point out, but one I'm going to answer first. The film that was the most frightening that you remember from your childhood. So what was the film that most frightened you as a child?
Boogeyman and Psycho.
Boogeyman and Psycho. Those are your two films. Interesting.
I mean, I watched them when I was really young, so...
And that they had an impact on you.
Jesus fucking Christ, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I cursed.
Yes, okay. What was the one for you?
Oh, I'm trying to think about what was scariest for me. It was a TV movie, it was a TV miniseries, but it really scared me.
Yeah.
But now I look back on it and it's a little bit more silly than scary, but
yeah,
that really scared me. Also, Pet Sematary was one that didn't just scare me, but it gave my sister nightmares for years. Wow. She was pretty little. She wasn't supposed to be watching it with us, but she did, and then that was bad. And she still talks to me about it.
Yeah, I think I think we don't, like, I was with Ronnie visiting her nieces once, and they were, young, but not, and we don't have kids, so we're a little bit ignorant to like what they can and can't watch. So we were like looking at the kind of films, and we saw this film Happy Feet, right? Which is, and I mean, it's a film about penguins, like what can go wrong? That was the thought, right? Neither of us had seen it, but then we turned the film on, and what happens is one of the penguins, the baby, gets separated from her mother in the movie. And then we saw that the girl all of a sudden had the sadness of losing her own mom. So what appeared to be a film that would have been appropriate for a child, all of a sudden became apparent to us, oh my God, the themes of shows are actually very, very raw for kids of certain ages.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. There are definitely movies that kids I know, including my niece, some kids can watch this movie a million times and it never affects them. Another kid could watch it once and then it scars them for years. So
I have a question.
I see my wife sitting off in the corner looking up like, did I just scar my niece for years? That's what I'm seeing. And she's nodding her head up and down as we speak.
Following up on Bulelang's comment, which is horror movies don't make sense for me.
Oh, yeah.
What are the movies like you're watching, you're like, how the hell did this movie even get made or funded? Like, what would be your top 3 movies, you two, that you're like, oh my God, this is like garbage.
There's so many of them.
Repo the Genetic Opera. Have you guys seen that one?
No.
Nah.
Oh, it's this
Never heard of
cult
it.
movie. Oh my gosh. So here's my story of Repo the Genetic Opera. So it's this really weird movie with like it's a horror movie with like plastic surgery, like forced plastic surgery, and like Paris Hilton's in it, and you know the is the actor from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who I'm forgetting his name now. But I went to see it in the theater with like it was one of those Q&A with the director and the writer, and I think one of the cast that was not Paris Hilton. And they were sitting behind us, me and my friends, and I was just like, I was not into it. I thought it was terrible, but all my friends were really excited and clapping and wanted to go talk to the director and everything, and I'm like, stop it. And then like afterwards they would want to listen to the soundtrack a million times, and I just I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't.
I mean,
so I would say that's probably my number one movie that I saw, and I'm like, no.
Movies that are like, for me, just horrid, but I'm sure they have a following, are like Shark Tornado or whatever that film was.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's just sharks floating around in tornadoes, Bambos, and eating people. Like, that's the whole movie.
Okay.
And I just think, but I wanted to share something that, back to the horror movie, because I did have one thing, is that as a kid, I remember this movie that scared the hell out of me was Jaws. And you're going to laugh. I didn't even see the movie. I only heard other kids talk about it. But the fact that they talked about it in the detail that they did, it scared the hell out of me. So I couldn't swim in the swimming pool because I thought a shark could come out of the little, like, mentally, I couldn't get the idea that a shark could not come out of the drain pipe at the bottom of the pool.
How old were you?
I was young. I mean, I was,
Ronnie, does he still have that?
I was 9 or 10. Yeah, I really had this deep fear of sharks, although I didn't see the movie.
You should listen to the soundtrack.
So I also have a Jaws story. So I didn't see the movie either when I was a kid, but I went to Universal Studios where Jaws pops out of the water.
Yeah.
On the ride. And that scarred me. And I still don't like going to like aquariums or something. I'll go to an aquarium, but if I see a shark, I'll like turn away, close my eyes. Freaks me out if I even see a picture of a shark. So
wow.
And I think they're mechanical. It's like I think it's going to be a mechanical shark that's going to get me, because I don't know, because I know that's what it was. But like you go swimming, and I know that they have mechanical sharks and people put them in pools.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that somebody's done that.
But isn't it funny how we get, because of this early trauma, it comes from some arbitrary imagination world. We actually hold that and carry it with us our lives.
I just physically pushed Andy's books away because I don't think today we're going to pick up his books.
I can pick up the book.
I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino. Like, I was a drug addict at some point in my life, for 10 years to be specific. And during my drug addiction, Tarantino was like, I'd watch Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction on repeat, to the point where I still, until today, I know all the main lines. Like, it's insane. But the vivid colors, and there was always, I saw an intelligence in the conversations, or a wittiness, which I liked. And it was like curry to a piss head.
Nice. And what do you, because you are sort of evolved to a different person today.
Yeah.
So how was it for you to watch it today? Like, because there could also be associations with who you were back then. So do you see yourself still watching them today? And if so, how is it different than it was then?
Those movies specifically, I feel that they're timeless, and it's really like cinematography, I would say. So I could be in the old Bambos watching that, but I can also be very present and appreciate it from now. Nice. Yeah, it doesn't trigger me as it would be depressing music that I would listen to in my darkest moments.
Yeah. I'd like to go to discuss a little bit of the film Inside Out again, just to go back for a moment. And there was the 5 emotions that you named, right? Sadness being the last of those emotions. Am I right?
Yep, that's correct.
And it's interesting. You haven't seen the movie Bambos, but it's not really. So in fact, it might be good because I'm going to mention the second book. In the book that I wrote,
Which one?
The Wounded Healer, I spent a lot of time doing or expressing what they said in the movie, which is if you don't embrace all the emotions, that'll make it impossible for you to experience all the emotions. So if you don't embrace the sadness, you can't embrace the happiness, which is the theme of the movie, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
And so I spent this book far less eloquent than the film, of course, but and less engaging. But the essence of all of our shows, because we've done 273 of these today, is that whenever an emotion comes up, whatever that is, even if it's uncomfortable to discuss on air, we actually say we're inviting it to give space for the people we're with or ourselves, even though it's not always easy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. So in a way that, again, going back to that film and how I saw how it articulated the human condition so well is that if I see emotions coming up, Bambos does it even better than I. And if I was to compare us, is that he'll feel even more comfortable to bring in the uncomfortable thing that's not being said at the risk of creating a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, I did it today with a friend. I have to say, this is his first book. I haven't like when this book came out, I must have listened to the audiobook something like 15 times, and I read it 3 times. And yesterday evening, I started with my partner. She's in Cyprus, so on a video call, I started reading the first chapter, and then I got tired, and so I had my other phone, and we listened to the audiobook.
Wow!
And I forgot about the first chapter, and I felt so much love for you. I wanted to call you and just hold you or something. Yeah. It really touched me. It was like the 18 version of him, and really feeling into that pain of losing, in his case, a mama. Yeah. And when I read or listen to his books, I'm having visuals. I can really, so I can't wait for one of these to be a movie.
Yeah, I've actually wanted to make both these books into a film. That would be a stretch goal in life, is to take basically my mom was killed by a drunk driver when I was 18.
You can play your dad.
And I wrote a letter to her that she received a few hours before she was killed. And then 30 years later, I took a 3-month journey through America where I sat with 60 groups and asked them to write letters to their loved ones as if it was their last letter. So I've always had this dream of taking these 2 stories and interweaving them, because one is the story of going 60 times to different people, sitting with them in very intense situations, because you ask someone to write a letter to another as if it's going to be the last. You're like you don't know this person. We met 5 minutes earlier, and now we're going into some of the deepest, darkest territories of their emotions, and they're sharing them openly. And I didn't realize the emotional toll that would take on me doing that so many times in such a short period.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, I've always seen that as this sort of the story of the one story interwoven with going back in time to all the things that made that story relevant. Because the story itself would seem arbitrary. Why are you driving across the U.S. To hold these sessions if you don't understand the journey that I took the 30 years to get to that moment?
So you're saying zooming in and out of the past.
Yeah, I always saw it as zooming in and out of the past, like story being present day, but then zooming back in time to say, why am I doing this? Which is clearly only being done because I got an opportunity to say goodbye to my mom in a way that, not even knowing that she was going to die. And I only did that because I took seriously that she could die. Like I knew she could be dead, and I wrote because of that feeling.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's really hard for people to allow that emotion to come up in themselves because it's so overwhelming. But not unlike the movie In and Out we just discussed, by letting that pain in and then not letting it paralyze you, but letting it compel you, that's sort of where we really come alive. And the hard thing is, and I'm sure it's for Anne, we can discuss that, is that when we talk about, there's a fine line between letting the pain in and then that pain just becoming depression. So there's a fine line of how do we turn the pain into something that actually gives us joy again, which is basically the whole theme of that film, Inside Out.
Beautiful.
And it's a fine line. I don't like to profess that one has to feel pain to be happy, because that would be another belief system that creates confusion. But I would say if one doesn't allow themselves to see that pain and make peace with it, it's really going to be hard to be happy.
Very true.
Yeah.
No, it's that is so true. I think it's part of the human condition. I mean, with Inside Out, part of the whole thing is saying everybody feels sadness, and if you try not to feel sadness, then you get it bottled up, and that can really affect you.
Yeah. I'd love to bring on some of the
comments,
because this could be one of the most commented shows that we've,
because everyone likes movies.
Everyone likes movies. Iris Offer, who's in Amsterdam, says, I also love The Princess Bride. My family took me to a birthday gift when I was 12, and I've seen it many times since. Always makes me feel good. Yeah.
Now, this was the movie when I first realized that I could watch a movie when I was having a mental health crisis.
Is that right?
And it was helpful to me. I was in college. I was 19. I was in a manic state, and I thought to just pass the time. It was 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Watched the movie, and I was completely in the world of The Princess Bride. I wasn't feeling manic. I was just watching the movie, and it was fantastic. So yeah, it made me feel good too.
It's like you anchored yourself to the movie as a. Can you in 1 minute share what this movie is about?
Sure.
Like, should I watch it?
Oh yeah. So you should definitely watch The Princess Bride. So The Princess Bride came out in the 80s. It's the perfect movie. Basically, it's a fairy tale about Wesley and Buttercup, who are a couple but got separated, and she thinks that he is dead, but he's not, and she gets kidnapped. He goes to rescue her, and he basically gets to be friends with a Spaniard who is a master swordsman, and a giant played by Andre the Giant, who's a wrestler. And there's sword play. There's, like I said, there's giants. There's a grandfather and a grandson bonding. There's a miracle man played by Billy Crystal. It's gorgeous. It's hilarious. It's timeless. So definitely watch it.
I love how your hands are dancing as you're talking about it.
Sentimental.
Yeah.
I just get excited about that movie. When there's somebody who hasn't seen it yet, I just get excited, and I'm like, yes, watch it.
There's another one that came in from Iris, and this is interesting what she writes here. There are things I cannot and will not see because it's too painful, like The Handmaid's Tale and Mother, every movie where women are being tortured, abused, or murdered.
Yeah. No, I hear you. The Handmaid's Tale, I've seen the first few seasons, and I've really debated about going back and rewatching them so I can watch the final season, because it's been so long since I watched the other one, so I feel like I need to watch them again. But I hear you, Iris, on that. Mother is one that I didn't really want to go see myself or watch, on video or whatnot.
I don't know either of them, but I can tell you I have a really hard time watching where there's rape or abuse. Murder, weirdly, Not so much. It's just it's almost like I don't know why. It's not like but there's something about like seeing the torture of a person that they have to carry on going forward. That it's almost like I emotionally feel like what the life is going to look like because of that suffering, and that's harder for me to watch. Weird.
So I've been working on a second book, basically all movies about mental health. So tentatively my favorite mental health movies. And there's more than I wish there was movies about mental health where there's sexual assault, rape, that kind of thing. And I can't watch those. Like I have to stop watching it if that happens.
And you'll just turn them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, I'll skip the scene.
Yeah.
Because it's just very triggering for me.
Yeah, I think what's sad is like, there's often been this discussion with video games that children are becoming desensitized to murder and violence through, interacting with these games. And in a way, I've noticed that if I'm feeling weaker and I watch a movie that has a sad or a difficult scene, it'll impact me on a very, very intense level. So it's almost like that's when I feel like you're more, when we talk, you're more there permanently, like you're very vulnerable, and I kind of will come in and out of it. But if I'm really vulnerable, I can't really, like the whole Ronnie watching the series This Is Us. This Is Us was like razor blades for me. Like she watched a show and my throat would constrict because the pain was that.
And as he's like even hearing describe it, I'm contracting.
Yeah.
Let's move to another comment, a more joyful comment.
What's that? I thought there's more comments down beneath.
Oh, he said that. He said something else. Inside Out. Oh yeah, this one. Burelang. I have watched an average of 4 movies annually.
Yeah.
You are a king.
Yeah, 4 movies. So one movie every 3 months.
Every quarter. My quarter zoning out or celebration.
For some reason, my wife says The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
That was a hard movie for her.
Oh, that was a hard movie for her.
Oh yeah, I didn't even want. I started reading the book and I had to put it down. Couldn't do that one.
Boys Don't Cry is another painful film for Ronnie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And no, it's good. It's good, but it's painful.
Yeah.
Burelang says, if I can predict the movie, I don't love it. I'm so with you. And then his wife says, did you love The Sixth Sense for first time you watched it?
Yes. I actually saw that when I think it was about a couple of weeks into my freshman year in college. And there was somebody there who was sort of invited a bunch of us freshmen to go watch that movie. And it felt nice to be included in something where I didn't really had made that many friends or any friends at that point. I don't think, sort of acquaintances, but not like really good friends yet.
Yeah.
So that was sort of colored the experience. But I really loved the movie. I thought it was a great twist. I really thought it was a very intelligent movie, and I'm a huge fan of Bruce Willis. So
yeah,
and it was fun to see him in something that was a little different than the other things that he's been in.
Yeah. I recently watched the movie with my partner who visited, but this movie was like the woman was the heroine, Mulan. And I watched it because I've been doing photo shoots where kind of empowering the feminine to step into different archetypes or to step out of something that is troubling and go more into an empowerment. So I was looking at the clothes, the poses, the way she carried herself, the way she would handle and I loved seeing in a movie where a woman is the strong one without having also a man on the side, like being equally strong. Like she was the one. Because in all the movies where a woman is in power, there's always a fucking penis next to her who's also in power.
Yeah.
So sorry, what movie were you saying that
Mulan.
Mulan. Oh yeah. For sure.
And also Crouching
Dragon, Hidden Tiger.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
What a choreography. Like, I love that movie.
I think it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so
something,
too.
some words all together.
Dragons and tigers crouching and hidden.
One thing that I think is really interesting about films, and I was tracking this, is that films, they're like very liberal in general. So they kind of take the social consciousness and move it progressively more liberal. So every show nowadays will always have a character, because like in the 80s, that was the first time we kind of got white gay males. And at that time, it was like hard to get a white gay male into a sitcom, because at that point, society was almost like, that's as much as we're prepared to accept at this moment. But now you see, like, we've upgraded. So it's like, basically there's going to be a transgender in most film, or so everyone's conscious that we want to have a non-gendered or someone that creates a little bit of an openness, or a showing that this is what society looks like today. Yeah. And I found that to be a very interesting like evolution in film, where society becomes normalized through film. Yeah. I don't know if that's something that you've been tracking or...
Sure. I mean, I think that there's still a ways to go on that. I think with trans characters, I think it happens more often. I don't know if it's so much as that, but yeah, I think that movies, even in some ways, TV and movies, it sort of depends on whether you can, if cable and streaming and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think it's better. I think it could be even better than now.
Well, I just see Netflix series and things. There just seems to be more transgender themes or transgender characters. And I was aware that in the 80s that there was a campaign from like GLAAD and some of the advocates for LGBTQ rights to get characters in shows so that they could be seen as more of a normalized way, because like we spoke earlier about, it's hard to feel compassion for someone you've never seen before. So if you have a character on who is someone you don't have any familiarity with, then you sort of, you become more comfortable with, oh, gay men, they're actually okay. I don't have to be worried. But when you there's a lot of studies that have been done on science where they call in-group and out-group bias. So how much empathy do we have to people that are in the out-group? And brain studies show that there's less compassion just because they're out of our group.
Right, exactly.
So in a way, I've seen that this is a way that we have kind of helped society along by embedding these character types in films.
So no, that's completely true. And
yeah,
you know, I do think it gets better every year. And it's just, it's super important to have characters with different gender expressions out there. I think it makes me happy to see that for sure.
Yeah. What's my favorite?
Yeah, a movie where there's a transgender or gay.
I can tell you, I saw a movie. I could cry almost now talking about it. I saw a movie with Ronnie 2 weeks ago, and it was called Supernova. It's more of an art film. And it was about two men that were getting into their retirement age, gay, married. One of the men was starting to have dementia, and they were taking their last road trip together. And it was a journey, I kind of want to talk about it, it's going to make me cry. It was a journey of one man wanting to end his own life so that he didn't have to die in dementia and have his partner take care of him. And the partner was more of a control freak sort of person, and he didn't want his partner to end his own life. He wanted to hold him till the last day. And the journey was how a loving couple who is confronting this dilemma, how each one is trying to navigate it. One saying, I don't want to live and then not even remember your name. And the other one saying, I want to be with you till the end, even if you don't remember my name. And why it was such a important story
you've talked about this,
was because in hearing it and seeing it, you realized that it didn't matter that these were two men, that they loved each other, and that it's that level of compassion, which I also see changes people's perception and understanding. Because it's really easy to categorize a group and project on them and create stories so that you can separate from them. It's really hard when you feel, if you were in that character's position, how hard it would be for you to experience that same feeling. Yeah.
Mine is Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
I don't even know. What's that?
So basically, it's a musical. It's like a rock musical. It's about this trans woman who's from Germany, East Berlin, and gets an operation, a sex change operation, and ends up getting it botched, and is brought to the United States. It gets married, gets brought to the United States, gets dumped by this person, and has to make it on her own. And she falls in love with this young man who becomes famous off of the movies or off of the songs that they co-wrote together.
Wow.
It's hilarious. Like, it doesn't sound hilarious, but it's really
it doesn't.
funny. But I saw they've done live shows of it, so I actually got to see that. Got a live show of the movie.
I doubt you, but there's this Netflix series that I found very nice called The Movies That Made Us. Have you either of you seen this?
I haven't seen every episode, but I've seen some of them, yes.
What I love about the series is that it takes a film that had such an impact on society, and then it goes back and relives how they made the movie. And so you get to kind of see behind the scenes. And what I find really beautiful is when you see during the film, like for the Dirty Dancing, like when they were making the film, they're even sitting there talking to one another about how crap this film is, right? Like, this is the worst film ever made. So at the time, as they're making these movies, as they speak the lines or do the things, they're like, "Oh, this is so bad." They like never in a million years thought that it would ever like strike a chord. And
Patrick Swayze was saying it's bad.
Well, they showed it to somebody and they said, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" And they're like, "Listen," they said, "burn it and take the insurance money." That's what they said. That's how bad.
I remember that. Remember that line. No, Dirty Dancing is one of those. Wow. But that show is amazing.
Yeah, and what I think is also fascinating about films is that it's really such a crapshoot, because I guess the one thing, when I was writing my books, I was self-conscious because I said, I'm not a writer. This is not my profession, right? I had all my narratives. And then it dawned on me that actually it's not that you need to be a good writer. It's that your writing resonates with people. So even some movies that are just like junk, they resonate with enough people that then they become important emotionally to them.
Yeah.
Right.
So the humor is, and this is one thing I guess I've learned in life, is that it's not a question about anything being good or bad. It's a question of who does it resonate with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I've seen about movies.
I really tend to be drawn to movies where there's a genuine hero's journey. Like, I'll cry, even if it's like full on action, I'll cry.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. I really, it's been a great.
No. Balbus is going to ask the question. You've been on 30 shows now.
40
shows.
Has this been, like, how do you rate our podcast?
Rate us. Top what? Where are we?
Sure. I would say top 5 for sure.
Top 5.
At least. I mean, one of the things that I love about you guys is that you're willing to talk about emotions and, what's going on with both of you, and you're just so raw and real. To me, that's fantastic. That's amazing. I don't like to say who's my top one.
Obviously not. Listen.
And Anne, don't forget that Andy is
Yeah, I'm one of a
One of a
kind.
kind.
Baby. You're only going to get this hat on one show, Vamos. I'm not wearing this hat again after this.
We're gonna see.
And also people who who love to talk movies, that always makes me happy.
Yeah, it's I was raised in Hollywood, so I was in that industry for a lot of time. North Hollywood, not the Hollywood, North Hollywood, and it was sort of fun to be there and also fun to leave there because it's got its own crazy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful weekend.
Yes,
You
thank you
too.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
We didn't get to say bye to Bugsy. Or
Bogey didn't actually come up on the show.
Bogey didn't come.
Monday, guys, myself and Andy have changed the title of the show.
Yep, I didn't change the thing yet, but I need to do
He will. And we're gonna be covering our favorite shows. I love how you parrot me.
We're gonna have to do some work because I haven't really looked into that, but I want you to do some homework as well this time because last time you slacked off. Remember?
No.
Yeah, you did.
I don't remember that.
Okay, then I'm going to accuse you of slacking off so that you take more responsibility this time.
It's not going to work like that. So today, as everyone knows, it's Friday. It's Andy's date night. So we'll see you on Monday.
Ladies' night, if you're feeling right. It's ladies' night. Oh, what a night. We see you next week on A Wonderful Chaos.